to the first edition of Razorback Reactions podcasts. Today, we're going to be looking at Arkansas versus Texas A&M. And at first glance, Arkansas is 16th, A&M is 7th, and there hasn't been any top 20 matchups for the Hogs in years. I don't know exactly how long, but it's definitely been a while. So I guess we'll just get into it then. For A&M, on the offensive side of the ball, they have several guys that really could make a huge impact in this game. And it's really important to make sure we, watch out for them. Know where they're at all times. Don't let them get away. So the first guy is Ainias Smith. Okay, he has 331 yards and 2 touchdowns combined. So that's 135 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. And I guess you can add the 19 yards on the ground, but there's no touchdowns there. And we'll get to the special teams later, but there's some there. Next we got Isaiah Spiller, who's their running back. He has 250 yards. Okay? That's 6.3 yards per carry. He also has a touchdown. And he has 80 yards receiving for 10 yards per reception with a touchdown as well, which is 330 yards and 2 touchdowns combined. Basically, Isaiah Spiller is their big back. He gets the yards. He's an all-SEC type running back. I think he's 6'1", 215 pounds, yeah. 6'1", 215 pounds. He's all SEC. He was an all SEC freshman in 2019. Last year he was first team all SEC. And this year I'm pretty sure he's a preseason first team all SEC. And not only in the SEC, he's one of the top backs in the nation, really. We need to make sure to know where he is. Don't let him get loose, because he's a big guy, but he's also fast. His 40-yard dash was like a 4.58, I think, which is pretty good for a running back of 215 pounds. But yeah, let's get to the next guy, who is Davon Achane. He's also their running back, which I already said, but he's 5'9", not as big, but he's really fast, man. He's 185 pounds. I'm trying to remember his 40 time. I think it's 4.3 or 4.4. But that's the speculated one, because I don't think he actually ran 40 time, but he did run in the World Championships, I believe. No, not the World Championships, the NCAA Championships, and he was like 6th in the world on a 200-meter dash time, which was only like a second behind Usain Bolt. Anyway, but yeah, he's fast, and he also gets a lot of yards on the ground to complement Isaiah Spiller. He's got 203 yards, 6.8 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns, and then he also has about 70 yards in the passing game and 11.5 yards per reception there with a touchdown. He's a threat, really. And we need to make sure that we look at all of these backs, because I don't know if I mentioned it before with Anaya Smith, but he's their kind of go-to guy for anything. I mean, he's a running back, wide receiver, punt, and kick returner, so he's all over the place, and he's insanely fast. You can't lose track of him. But back to A-Chain, I mean, we got to make sure that he doesn't get into the open field, because he'll just burn our defense. And I know we got some fast guys like Greg Brooks, but it's hard to catch up when you're already beat. So another guy who actually was a problem last year when we played him, and that was 2020, when A&M finished 5th. But he's Jalen Weidermeyer. He's their tight end. He got 141 yards receiving, and that's averaged at about 12 yards per reception. But he has no touchdowns on the year. But last year, he had 92 yards and 2 touchdowns against us. 2 touchdowns. One guy. 2. We can't let that happen again, because A&M has a really good defense this year. And right now, they're ranked number 1 in the country in the total points allowed per game and just overall. I can't remember if they're first in the country on yards, but they are on points, because they only average, I think it's like 7, maybe 5.7. I think it's 5.7 points a game is how much they're giving up. Now, of course, they haven't played anyone good, but everyone's been raving about their defense, so I might as well just throw out a bone, But yeah, we got to make sure that he does not get loose either, which I personally don't think we will. For those of you who don't know, A&M's starting QB went out in the second game of the season. I think it was 5 minutes into their game. 5 minutes into the second game. He went out with a leg injury. And he's not going to be back for a few weeks. So they got their second string dude. His name's Cal. Give me 1 second. Yeah, Zach Calzada. He came in, and he didn't do very well against Colorado. He was all over the place, but that's kind of because their offensive line is not doing too good. I mean, on 50% of the dropbacks that Calzada has had this year, he's been pressured. And if you're pressured on 50% of your dropbacks, that's not going to do very well for you in the passing game. It's hard enough to put it on the money when, you're in the bright lights and you haven't even been playing with the first team offense. But now you got the defensive line to worry about, and then blitzing safeties and linebackers. And, A&M offensive line has just, they haven't been helping him at all. Which is, I think, somewhere where we can kind of catch them slacking. But yeah, he's not throwing a very good ball this year so far. Let's see his actual stats so far. I think he has 400 something. 458 yards. Okay. He has 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Man, his completion percentage is just above 50. It's only 51.4%. That's awful. That's just awful. I think their pass blocking got a little bit better against New Mexico, but hey, that's New Mexico. And they still gave up. I think they gave up 3 sacks to New Mexico. New Mexico isn't good, guys. I don't know how they gave up 3 sacks. I don't think they had any, backups in or anything really. But they did. So, if New Mexico can sack him 3 times, I'm pretty damn sure we can sack him, I don't know, at least 3 times. I would say hopefully like 4 or 5 times. And then pressure him. Pressure the hell out of him. Because if we can do that, then it's going to bode well. Because, like I said, his completion percentage is already not good. And when you combine that with the pressure, it's just going to go down even more. So some of their offensive tendencies. I've noticed they like to do a lot of short runs, passes. They like to do some screen passes to the outside. They like middle passes on the outside as well. They'll take the middle inside passes too, but that hasn't been that open so far for them. And then they like to do a lot of running because they got some good running backs. But so far, I don't think they've scored very much every game. Against New Mexico, they won 34-zip. Against Kent State, I think they won 41-10. But then their only real opponent was Colorado, and they won that game 10-7. Which they barely got those points. They scored a touchdown in the last 5 minutes of the game. But based on that, I think they're averaging 27-ish points a game, somewhere in there. On the flip side, Arkansas is averaging around 40, I think. So, I'm not going to say it, but it is what it is. In the fourth quarter, they don't score very much. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter total in 3 games. That's only 7 points a game. Arkansas has not allowed anyone to score in the first or fourth quarter this year, I think. Let me make sure. But while I'm checking that, the A&M offensive line, they've just been awful. They've given up 6 total sacks this season, and that's 2 per game against actual cupcakes. They need to improve before they really, what's the word? I don't know. I lost my train of thought. But actually, Arkansas has allowed someone to score in the fourth quarter, but that was Texas. However, we pretty much just had our backups in at that point because that game was way out of hand. We were up, I think it was 35 to like 7. But point is, we don't really allow points at the beginning or the end of the game. But yeah, okay. So that's their offense, I guess. Now moving on to the defense. And again, I don't know how good this defense actually is. I know last year they were one of the top defenses. They only allowed like 90-ish yards running per game. Even though I think we put up like 200 yards on the ground against them. So I really don't think that, the averages really matter for every team, because not every offense is the same, But yeah. So some of those playmakers on defense, Leon O'Neal Jr., he has 10 tackles on the year. He has 2 deflections, pass deflections, that is. He's got 2 picks, and one was a pick 6 that went 85 yards. I think that one was in their first game of the year. There's not really a ton of like major, guys on the stat sheet that really pop out. Okay, I think it's more of a really sound unit. They play well together. They communicate. They've got experience, but they also are highly rated. They're talented, but they share the tackles and all that stuff. They share it. It's not really one guy or 2 guys. But yeah, I've noticed that in the first 3 games, they like to stack the box. They usually got like 7 guys in there. I think I might have seen them put 8 in there a couple of times. But they do that because they have so much confidence in their secondary and in their corners, their safeties. Because, they're pretty good, I guess. But again, they might have just been doing that because they were playing inferior opponents. They weren't playing top 25 teams. They played Colorado, and Colorado only scored 7 points, but they got to the 5-yard line one time, and they turned the ball over. They didn't convert on downs. They didn't score any points that drive somehow. I really don't think that's going to happen with Arkansas. We're not going to go away with 0 points at the 5-yard line. No. They also went, I think it was about to the 30-yard line, and they missed a field goal. So they missed a 46-yarder. But that's 2 possessions where they should have at least come up with 3 points, each one. And if they had done that, they would have won the game. And A&M would not be 3-0. they would not be ranked number 7 in the country. So I think they're overhyped right now. I really do. They haven't proven to me that they're a top 10 team. They've pretty much just rode the talent wave. They've rode the success from last year. But, on the field this year, the last 3 games, they haven't proven anything. I mean, they've been average, I guess. But the one okay team that they played, they hardly beat them. And then they expect to beat us? Not even in Kyle Station or Kyle Field? I really don't think so, I mean, of course they could. We're not getting to my prediction yet, but just throwing it out there, that their play has not necessarily matched, I guess, the hype. But yeah, I mean, the Colorado offense, which only scored 7 against A&M, they didn't score at all against Maryland. They lost, I think it was 30-0, maybe more. They're not a good quality opponent, so don't even look at the game based on, we really shut them down, because, no, you didn't. They shut themselves down. They couldn't convert. They played themselves, really. But yeah, I guess they stacked the box against Arkansas. They're going to do that. They're going to stack the box because we run the ball I think it's around 2/3 of the time. They're going to stack the box because we got 5 guys that we can rotate at running back who are all really good backs. We're the only team in the country who's got 5 different guys with 100+ rushing yards. Only team. Okay? We have depth, and they know it, so they're going to try to shut us down there because we need the run to set up the pass with KG. Sure, he can run the ball, but it's not going to be as effective if we can't, throw the ball as well. And, of course, to throw the ball, we have to run the ball first because that's our identity. So, go figure. KJ is going to have to throw. Okay? I guess that's what I'm saying. They've also allowed a lot of outside runs and short slants, from what I've seen. Allowed them to happen, allowed the other teams to run it outside and do short outside passes. As long as they're not big chunk plays, they let them happen. They're just confident in their secondary, so they allow that room on the field because, hey, they know they're not going to give up some huge plays. And so that's kind of a man-to-man matchup that they allow a majority of the plays. They try to limit the inside runs by stacking the box because that they think they can impose their will on the offensive lines because they got several really highly rated defensive linemen, and they do a lot of blitzes. They try to get to the QB. They want to make them panic because that's going to help with the completion percentage, conversion rates, and that's what they have to do to win the game, and that's just their way that they think they can win best, I guess. Or that's what I've seen so far. Now, I don't know for sure if that's going to be their game plan against Arkansas, but it was so far, so that's what I'm going to say. Until they go do something different. On special teams, their playmaker, Anaya Smith, who I said before, but now we'll get to him on special teams. He gets 12.6 yards per punt return. Okay? He gets 177 yards total returning punts this year. That's 3 games. 177 yards. That's 60 yards a game in the punt return game. That's a lot of yards. We can't let that happen against us, because if we give them an extra, 10 yards, if we punt it 6 times, that's 10 yards each time. And that would change the drive from starting at the 30 to starting at the 40. And we don't want them to start on the 40, because even though their offense has not been consistent, they haven't been able to impose their will. They haven't been able to hardly do anything, except against New Mexico State, really, and Kent State, who was trash. But they're kind of like streaky, okay? They can make things happen, but they're not consistent. And if we allow them to start the drive further down the field, it gives them more room to mess up and still convert. And we don't want that. Now, the reason Anaya Smith is so dangerous is, again, he's like 5'9". He's speedy. He's really speedy. He's shifty. He can make guys miss. There was one play against New Mexico State where everyone on the defense was assuming he wouldn't pick up the punt because it looked like he was just allowing them to down the ball. But he faked him out. He picked up the ball and he ran it all the way down for a touchdown. But fortunately for New Mexico, I think there was a holding or a block in the back call, so it didn't count. But still, I think that's the second time this year he's had a punt return get called back because of a flag. Now, regardless on if they counted or not, he obviously has talent, okay? We can't let him do that to us. We have to make sure we swarm towards him when he gets the ball. But, there is one, I'm not going to say positive because it's not a good thing to wish injuries on people. However, he got injured against New Mexico, and I think right now he's day-to-day with a concussion protocol kind of thing going on. So I don't know if he's going to play against us, and if he does, I can't imagine he would be 100%. Maybe he would, but they haven't really said anything because he's a big piece. So they're not going to just give us free information, a free scouting report. But, yeah, okay. Along with Anaya Smith as the punt returner, they have a really good punter. I think it was their last game where He kicked it 65 yards one time. But he's also averaged 48 yards a punt. It's pretty good. He's had multiple punts inside the 5. Okay. He can boom it, and he's accurate with his leg. He can't only boom it and not put it on the target. He puts it on the target, and he's gonna, give us a hard time. So we need to watch out for that. I guess now I'll go with what I think is going to happen. I know for sure A&M, they're going to stack the box, okay? Because their main priority is to stop our running game. When we average like 280 yards a game on the ground, they have to make sure they minimize that number. If they can't stop our run game, it's going to be another Arkansas versus Texas game. They don't want to get blown out. They don't want to lose. So they're definitely not going to go and just let us get 280 yards on the ground, or at least theoretically they're not going to let us. We'll see if it happens, but they don't want it to happen. So they're going to stack the box. The second thing they're going to do that kind of goes along with that is they're going to make KJ throw the ball. They know KJ's not really the most accurate quarterback. Let's see, his completion percentage this year. It's only I guess it's higher than I thought. But it's at 73% right now. But overall, as a quarterback, I think he's more like 66-ish. But they're going to make KJ throw the ball. Because even though his percentage this year has been 74%, he has missed a lot of receivers. Part of that is because they dropped the ball, but he's also just overthrown them. He usually doesn't underthrow them. He usually doesn't underthrow them, but he does overthrow them several times a game. And with a defense that's supposed to be this good, they're not going to let that big play opportunity show up enough times where KJ can just airmail it. There's going to be consequences if he can't connect. But his deep ball has been pretty accurate this year. It's just like short and medium passes have kind of been mind-boggling how they dropped them or how far off they were sometimes. But yeah, they're going to make KJ throw the ball because he's not the most efficient QB in the SEC or in the country. And I guess their third key of the game is they're going to use their skill players to get those chunk yardage plays. So I guess my skill players are Aniyah Smith, Isaiah Smiller, and Devon Achane, or Achan, however you say it. It's probably going to be those three guys who they're going to count on to make big plays. Because this offense, they need big plays. They're just not as stable as they need to be to just grind it out. That's the reason they run the clock so much, because they're not confident in their offense. they want their defense to have plenty of time so they can stop the other team so that they don't get many opportunities to score on A&M. And if A&M's defense is well rested, they're going to feel pretty good about their chances of winning the game. So they run the clock out, they win the time of possession, and that's going to put them in a good position. So that's what they want to do. Stack the box, make KJ throw the ball, and use skill players to make plays. Now, finally, I guess I'll make my score prediction. Now, because of everything that I've said, A&M is not good on offense. Their defense is not exactly proven. It's their QB's first road game. I guess it's not a road game, but it's neutral. First neutral game. Arkansas's offensive line is really good this year. Right now there's 2 guys on the offensive line who are questionable for the game, but assuming they can play, we're going to be able to establish our run game. And maybe we won't get the same amount of yards we've been getting because A&M does have a good defense. I don't know how good, but it's still good. I still think we'll get a decent amount of the yards we've been getting on the ground. And we still have Treylon Burks and Tyson Morris out for receiving. And we got KJ, who, if our run game's going and if we're still passing it, okay against this good pass coverage that A&M has, then KJ is going to be able to book it as a running quarterback. And if that happens, which I think it will, then Arkansas will win the game. They're going to start 4-0 for the first time since 2003. And there would be a good chance we'd end up in the top 10 next week. So I guess give me Arkansas 31, A&M 21. And that's my final score. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening and are going to watch the game 2:30 tomorrow on CBS.